Hello to everyone and welcome to Live at Lunch. I'm delighted today to have an entrepreneurial woman, Hayley Purbrick from Big Sky Ideas. So welcome, Hayley.
Thank you.
To Live at Lunch, fantastic. Now, we were just mentioning it before we turned on the recording. I'm based here in Coonabarabran, but you're based in Deniliquin.
I am. I'm down in Denny.
Yes, fantastic. So just in New South Wales, but on just over the border from Victoria.
Yep, just over the border. Not the first town, but almost the first town.
Right. Fantastic. What sort of size population is Deniliquin, to get a bit of a picture?
Oh, well, so our councils have just merged together, but we're probably around 7,000 people. We've been pretty much a plateau on 7,000 for the last couple of years, I would say.
Right. Okay. So I'm curious, what's the premise with your Big Sky Ideas? What's the premise with that whole concept of the enterprise you've set up?
I guess Big Sky Ideas, so that was created out of a lot of different reasons. It all started back in 2015. So back in 2015, it was a little bit of my own frustration. So at the time, we had a lot of water politics going on, and I felt like no one was talking to women. So there wasn't enough information and facts happening. And then at the same time, I also live in a community, but I work outside of it. So I was feeling quite disconnected. I had young children. And so it spurred me into thinking I need to do something about this. So those two things combined, I created an event in our local region for women. It was about water. We had around 200 women turn up, and we had a fantastic event, but all the feedback from the event was they wanted more opportunities for connection and belonging. And that kind of led into a women's group, which is called the Riverina Collective. And as I engaged with all these women who were coming along to the events, a lot of them were expressing that they had all these ideas that they wanted to explore, but they didn't know where to start. And so I started looking around for, what services exist in our community? How do we support local businesses? How do we support new ideas? And that's how Big Sky Ideas was born.
Fantastic. I think the inspiration for water impacts in so many ways, doesn't it? Like it's not just business, it's recreation, it's survival, it's just so many things, isn't it? So it doesn't just impact on the male, only on the male.
No, absolutely not. I think I always say water's everyone's problem, but it's like agriculture is everyone's problem. When you're living in a small community, I just feel like every issue, everyone should be across.
Everyone owned, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And the more transparent and open we are about discussing it, the more people can understand what's happening and actually participate in the conversation. And that at that time, it was the conversation was not very open.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So, what are some of the projects that give us an example of one of the projects that you've done recently with Big Sky?
One of the projects I did recently, so I guess everything I do is about inspiring entrepreneurial spirit in small towns. And so one of the projects we just did was a women's innovation program. It was a 12-week program where we got women together for 3 sessions where they learned different skills. So the first part of it was all around personality profiling, understanding how the brain works and how communities think. And then the second half was teaching skills in design thinking, which is just a groovy word for effective problem solving and collaboration. And then the final day was putting their solutions that they'd found into the lean canvas, so like a business model canvas, and being able to explore what that looked like and then pitch it back to people who were there.
Right.
So it was an awesome program.
Fantastic. So 12 weeks, but with 3 live connections in person.
Yeah, 12 weeks, but 3 live face-to-face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you connect for the other 12 weeks?
Well, we had a Facebook group, a private group, which still exists, which is set up as part of Big Sky Ideas. So it's just a little subgroup, and over email, things like that. But a lot of it was, there didn't seem to be a lot of interaction outside of session. People might run into each other on the street, but one thing I've found with running different events is encroaching on people's time outside of their day-to-day. They don't love it.
Right.
They like to manage it in their own way. So we just had a Facebook page, and if they had any questions or if they wanted to interact with each other, they could.
Yes.
Some wanted to interact more, some not at all, but still really enjoyed the program. So giving them opportunities to connect as often as they wanted rather than forcing them to connect all the time.
So with your first workshop, with the idea of your personality traits, what's the benefit of understanding those or knowing those?
Because it's a community-based program, and it was all about community case studies, I really feel like a way for people to get a good understanding of the challenges they might face in their community when they're trying to explore an idea. It's good to understand how people think, and if you know how you generally approach things and that it might not be the same as everybody else, it means before you actually go into the community to try that idea or to explore your new business idea, you've got a little bit of an understanding of how people might respond, and you can role play those scenarios to yourself. And it's fascinating how the brain works, like knowing how people like the RAS and how you focus in on a problem. So
maybe for example, if you have, some people like the big picture and like to get down to find, and other people really need the nitty gritty and the details before they'll come on board. Or someone's, got to be on time. And then there's people that'll turn up when they're ready and, have lots of other things happening in their lives.
Yeah, if you're trying to collaborate, you kind of need to know. So, for example, with this event, I had 2 girls, Erica and Katrina, who were helping coordinate it because the event was funded by the Murray Local Land Services, so it was a grant project. And just even sitting down and understanding our personalities as people who are working together really alleviate some of those frustrations that you might have with each other, and understanding, so if I want to collaborate effectively with Erica, I have to behave a bit differently to the way that I would with Katrina to be able to sort of maximise the dynamic within the team. Because we were all, Erica and Katrina are the same personality and I'm a different personality. So
by understanding each other, you can flex to.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Interesting. I've done the personality traits before, but not quite utilised it fully, I suppose. I suppose we got to see how to, label the boss and the different layers of people in the organisation. But I love that's a really interesting idea. So that was your first one. So with the second workshop, with the design, so who did you have to facilitate that workshop?
For the second one, we had Christina. I can never say her last name. It's Gerzikius. It's a Greek last name, and she's from Ideation at Work, based out of Newcastle. Right. So that was a challenge we found with the program, is there is not a lot of people locally who have those skills, which is why it was reasonably expensive to get somebody down to teach the skills, but she was fantastic. And she, her motto for the whole day was, don't ask, don't get. So I thought that was, that's very, very true.
I'm down.
Don't ask, don't get. Yeah. And she gave some examples around how so often we, design thinking, a lot of it is about challenging the status quo and being prepared to push people on their assumptions and perceptions of what they think the problem is. So often we get caught up in the symptom and not the actual cause. And so if you don't ask, you don't get. So you've got to really push yourself to push other people to say, oh, I don't know if that's true. Or if you want something to happen, you have to go out and actually ask for it. It's not just going to land on your lap.
Right. So it's about maybe thinking about what you want and then stepping out to ask.
Yeah, that's right. So often we sit there and think things aren't possible, but we don't actually even test to see.
Yeah. Now, while we're talking, I noticed Linda's joined us, so we've got Stephanie and Linda, and we'll have lots of people watching the recording as well. But for those who are here, there is, if you hover down the bottom, it's possible to ask questions. So if you hover down the bottom of your screen, there's a little chat bubble, looks like a little speech bubble, and it's not till your mouse goes there that a strip comes up. So if you want to ask any questions of Hayley, you're welcome to. So we'll go on. I want to ask about your funding, but before we do that, I'll ask, what was the third speaker that you had?
The third speaker was Diana Somerville. So she coordinated Regional Pitch Fest.
Yes, which is where we met.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So that started in Wagga, and then Australia Post picked it up and rolled it out nationally last year. So I actually came across Diana through Regional Pitch Fest as well, through the Tall Poppies breakfast where we met. And I thought, well, she'd be the perfect person to take us through
fantastic
pitching and how that works. And she's local. So that was a huge advantage, and fantastic for local women to see that this is happening locally as well, so that they know that, well, you can't be what you can't see. They know that they can do it here. And so getting her along was really good. She told a personal story about having a professional crisis when she moved to the bush, which I think so many women do. And that was quite comforting, I think, to see that lots of people do. Yeah, that's right. So it was good to see that she started her career as in the army, I think it was, or in the Navy.
Right.
And met a farmer, and then, moved to Wagga and sort of found herself in this position where you think, well, what's next? Had children. How can I reskill? What can I do? And so she's completely reskilled, which is really inspiring.
So just to give a bit of background, Pitch Fest is all about helping startup organisations pitch their product or their service, and so there's a competition nationwide to enter in, and there was an amazing young fellow won it for New South Wales, but it was all across every state, and it was about you have your product and then you pitch it, but there's a whole lot of resources and support for pitching your business. But in your case, Hayley, you're looking at the pitch being to engage other people in the community and maybe to local council or businesses to step on board a community project. Is that
well, I guess I look at pitching is it's really just how you take your idea and make it understood. So in the context of what we were doing, if you have an idea and you want to put it into action, if you can't explain it in a short, concise way where people understand, they're less likely to adopt it and be able to spread the word about it. So even if it's not funding, it might just be within your own organisation. It might be an idea you have for your family or a change you want to make. If you can't explain it to them in a way that makes sense, they really struggle to adopt that idea and own it for themselves. So it's got two purposes. Depends who you're trying to pitch it to.
Yes.
Changes the way that you would create your pitch.
Yes.
And so, like, as an example, I went to a session. There's the Canberra Innovation Network set up in Canberra, and they have a sort of an incubator program, but it's really a lean canvas sort of 2-day session. And one of the things that I chose to pitch was I chose pitching eating vegetables to my children. Now, as you can imagine,
a lot of people would like that.
Yeah. So that's completely different to the way you might pitch eating vegetables to an adult. But so pitching is really about understanding who your audience is and being able to capture your idea and sell it to them in a way where they go, oh, I really want to buy that. I want to invest in it. I want to use it. That's how I view the whole idea of pitching. Again, another fancy word for a sort of like a normal concept.
Yeah, I love that. Pitching veggies to your kids. Great. So with the 12-week program that you had, so they've had these 3 big workshops, what sort of was how did the women choose to participate? What was your audience that you were, obviously, well, we've said it, women, but
yes.
yeah, were you
well, we called it I think, so we learn a lot of lessons about it, so we called it Think Big Rural Women.
Yes.
And I think the name in itself will attract a certain style of person, because for some people thinking big is it's a bit foreign and it's a bit scary and you might not want to think big. So the name in itself meant that we attracted women who possibly already had an idea that they wanted to learn how to put into action. Mm-hmm. But the whole premise, it's been interesting when people have asked how did it go? What ideas did people come up with? What solutions? The whole idea of the program was actually on people learning the process. Yes. And not necessarily on the outcome itself. So we use community case studies, so real case studies from the community for them to work through the process, like finding the root cause, coming up with solutions. But the intention wasn't on the outcome. But it's been interesting because a lot of local government representatives have asked, oh, but what ideas did people come up with? I said, well, they came up with some great ideas, but that wasn't the purpose. The purpose was to teach the process, not to solve the problems of the community.
It's about going away and applying when they want to,
because one of the biggest challenges we had with this program is we didn't have any seed funding. So if an idea was to happen, we didn't actually have any committed seed funding from council, RDA, local business. We really struggled to get business buy-in and local government buy-in to the program being meaningful, because we were focusing on the process and not so much on the outcomes.
So not delivering an outcome for them so much.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so they very much wanted, we want a real tangible solution that we can then put up in lights and is going to attract 20 jobs. But some of the solutions that were fantastic, so things like intergenerational mentoring program, sort of a marketing, someone came up with a marketing campaign, which is kind of like the Faces of New York, if you've heard of that.
Oh, where a photographer went round and, was that?
Yeah, and shares local stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was one, and that's not necessarily jobs. And then another idea was a waste-free cafe, which is underway, hopefully, cross fingers. Yeah. And the last idea was having like a thank you volunteers conference where we invited all the volunteers to come in and learn new skills, but to frame it up as a thank you day, because sometimes you think it's hard to get people in a room. Yes. But if you're getting them in a room to thank them for something and to show, teach them something new and show your appreciation, it might be easier. So they were the type of ideas which aren't necessarily from a local government perspective in line with their funding models, because their funding models are all around job creation and outcome-based solutions. So
about funding. So how did you cost and how did you run that? Because I'm sure people that are interested in doing something similar. How did you go about it? And I'm sure there's not one way to skin a cat, as they say. But what did you do?
I modelled the program off my cousin's program, which is an engineering program based out of Melbourne called Smart Seeds. Right. But I took it with a twist from a community perspective, because what works in Melbourne doesn't work in a regional town. There's different people, different objectives, and different skill sets as well. So with the costing, I really just sat down and said, well, what do we need to do to get it off the ground? And a lot of it is paperwork and sort of handbooks for the participants. Then website development, advertising and promotion are probably the biggest costs. So when we went to get our funding overall, so we got the funding from the Murray Local Land Services Community Grants Program, as a women's program. So they contributed, and they contributed $15,000 to the program. And then we also received some funding from Primacy Insurance, so an ag insurance company, who gave us $5,000 to sponsor participants to come. So we subsidised all our participant tickets by 50%. So it was $125 for them to come along. We haven't gone over the budget.
For what they got.
Yeah, fantastic. Really good. And I think the challenge when you're running something for the first time is just getting people to come and do it the first time. And once you do it the first time, then you've got testimonials, you've got feedback, you've got photography, you've got all sorts of things. So our aim was just to get people in the program, but we wanted them to have some financial buy-in so that they would actually attend and not show up. But not to make the cost so daunting that it put them off from applying.
If you think 12 weeks with 3 face-to-face events, wow. How many people did you have in it?
We had 18 people.
18.
Yeah, originally we were aiming for 50. I'm so glad we didn't get 50 because it would have been way too many. It was the perfect size. 18, you would not want to go any bigger. 15 probably would have been
better. That's interesting to know.
Yeah.
Because they get closer and
they just get to know each other better. And
50 you wouldn't really get that.
No, not the same intimacy in the group. And it was interesting. So the way we ran it, we really tried to test them out because what happens in a community, like there's this whole idea with our community, I would assume it's across a lot of regional communities, is there's a lot of protectionism around your own idea and also around your own offering or your organisation. So we kind of call it like the puppy syndrome, where you're like, oh, look at my puppy, isn't he beautiful? He's so gorgeous. And people look at your puppy and they're like, that's the ugliest puppy I've ever seen. And we're, oh, God, don't say that about my puppy. And we take it away. So what we did through the program is we had people work on other people's solutions, which some people hated, absolutely hated that. But when you're in a community, you really need to be able to champion other people's ideas and not just your own. And so, it was really interesting swapping them around because for some people, as soon as they were off their solution, they just not happy about it.
Yeah.
Not happy at all.
Not excited.
Not excited. No.
Yeah. Okay. So what's something else? We've spoken about one main project with the Big Sky. Are you thinking about doing it again? Is that?
I hope so. I would like to do it again, but all the different learnings, I think it would be good to break it up into a few different types of opportunities. So the weekend, for example, would be a great opportunity for local businesses to actually work on their own ideas, to be able to teach them those skills. The first session, the personality profiling and how the brain works, which all the women, that was their favourite session for the whole 3 days. And I can see huge benefits doing that across the community for individuals. So giving people the opportunity to have a greater understanding of how they interact with others and how the brain works and how you can get the most out of a team environment. That was Yeah, so maybe keeping them separate.
Yes.
I don't know. But would like to do it again, just not sure. I don't think it'll look exactly the same.
No. I mean, you could have different speakers, you could have different collaborations, different funding sources, depending on your, yes, it's a whole lot. I mean, this is a spark of an idea for others too who are listening to, for ideas. What about with Big Sky ideas? What's something else that you've done with growing those small communities or stopping us shrinking?
Yes. What else have I done? I'm running sorry, I've got a very itchy nose. I'm running a co-working space in Deniliquin, which has been really effective with driving collaboration.
Which is where you are now. You're in one of the rooms.
Yeah, which is where I am now. I'm just out the back in a nice quiet spot.
Yeah.
So that has been really fantastic with encouraging people to collaborate and share ideas. The women's group, the Riverina Collective, has been really successful. That's probably completely tapped into a problem that I didn't really recognise existed until we started doing it, just that sense of belonging and connection. So we meet 3 times a year, and it's all about teaching people to think with an open mind, challenging our perceptions and assumptions of each other, no judgment, and a supportive environment. So we have about 80 women come every 3 months and get together, and local women share their personal stories or their work, their own stories of essentially their life, but under a certain topic. So we've got taming toxic relationships coming up. So they can get really, they're deep topics, and they're things that people aren't prepared to talk about. I don't know why, because it's so insightful.
Taming.
So
yes.
Yes, and so from that context, those events are hugely supported, and they sell out straight away. I think sometimes in a regional community, or just maybe in general, we try to protect people too much from, the challenges that our communities are facing and that individuals face in their day-to-day lives, that we're not all perfect. We all have flaws. We all struggle. We all want to belong. We all judge other people, that we're actually all human. But, for some reason we don't like acknowledging that.
Yeah, the issues. So when you meet for that, and I'm conscious we're running out of time, is that how many people when you're saying you sell out? What's the...
we use about 80 people.
80 people, and it's like a conference-y sort of?
No, it's kind of like I would call it a girls' night out.
Right.
So we it starts it's on a Friday night at 6.
Yes.
And so we have sort of half an hour where they can mingle, and then so the speakers only speak for 10 minutes, and then it's then questions. So it's just something to keep the conversation flowing in between having dinner and learning something new and maybe meeting new people, because one thing I recognise as a new person into the community is it is really daunting to go to a networking event. If you don't know anybody, it's really difficult to just show up.
Yes, and they're not quite connected.
Yeah, and you don't have anything to talk about. So it's about creating an environment where they feel like they can come and they don't have to know anybody. And as the night goes on, they'll start to be able to have conversations with people to create that sense of connection, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Fantastic. Okay, I don't know if there's any questions from the audience while you're here. You've got Hayley to ask questions, so you can either take the mic or type in the text. Half an hour goes super quickly. And just to your address. Stephanie's got there. Keep going, Hayley, you're doing an amazing job. Yeah, I mean, in 2 years, just the drive, with your Big Sky ideas and coming up and really getting out there you know, putting up new ideas to a community is fabulous, and encouraging people to come on board. So that's fantastic. What's your, Hayley, just in case I don't say it correctly, your Big Sky ideas.com.au, is it?
Yep, that's the one.
Got it.
skyideas.com.au.
Okay.
I'm trying to consolidate all my little bits and pieces into one thing, so that is the best place to go.
Yeah, brilliant. And so there's ideas there to tap into for, you know, for other women in other communities. We've got this recording. You've got contacts that you can contact Hayley potentially for growing, you know, your own idea, whether Hayley's involved or you spark off on your own with your own team. But fantastic to grow, look at new entrepreneurial ways to grow and have our communities really, the smaller communities really function well, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say, because with the Riverina Collective, that is so easy for people to create in their community. Some girls from Yarrawonga are giving it a go this October. They're going to run one.
Right.
So if anyone is interested in doing them, I'm more than happy to help. It's really straightforward to put together, and the women in your community will absolutely love it.
Grab hold of it and
grab hold. Do it.
Fantastic.
Don't ask to do.
Great. Friday night, nothing like it to connect with a whole lot of other women and get your ideas and issues, ideas sorted. All right. So thank you so much, Hayley from Big Sky Ideas, for joining me, Vivian Evans, at Live at Lunch. Wish you all a brilliant day and a brilliant week ahead.
Thank you.
Bye.